what I do basically on a day-to-day in my life. So I work for Fox Media Group, and I use machine learning. I'm just putting up this slide because I'm going to discuss a lot about customer interaction in websites. So we pretty much reach around 52 million people on a weekly basis. That's pretty much what we want to have from this slide. These are the different digital behavioral tools which we use, and that are the tools and the top 4 are the tools which I use. So this is the mostly Adobe Analytics from Adobe Analytics. On an average, we get around 5 GB data per day, and in Google DFP we get twice the data. So I'm analyzing around that scale of data on an hourly basis. So, to get the basics of the terminologies which I'm going to use, a person who is entering the website is called a visitor. A person is making one visit. So whenever he comes and interacts through a website, he's going through different pages, but he only have one visit. And whatever he does, like a play button or something, is just called an event. The pain point we had are like this hotspots. We call it dead ends, or like mainly orphan pages. So if you say A, B, and C and D are 3 different web URLs or like web pages, you can see all the intended diagram. The D is actually a dead end. There is not much things happening after D. So it's the all thing actually. Almost the big B's have already addressed it, like Google and Facebook have done that. But in our world, nobody's really bothered about this. Why am I bothered? Okay, these are anonymized because I'm not supposed to show the actual values. Somehow my manager said not to do that. But the numbers are almost reciprocating. So, engaged percentage is a person coming to the site and clicking one more link. Like he's not even going. So orphan people are the people who just comes into the site, either clicking without knowing that they are even going to click into the site, or people who just click and after some time they just don't go into the next site. They are like disengaged or they didn't like what they see. So 2 and 3 visits are orphans, so we call them orphans who doesn't come, who come and just like leave us. So an interaction may be like 20 seconds or less. That means I was after that particular the people being orphan has been a known thing all around the world, but people who really take action on them are like either Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, or the big place. The small companies never really look into that level. So first thought process was whether content is making people engaged. And I was thinking of it, I was like, okay, most viewed content will be the most engaged content. That is what my brain thought at that moment. So what I'm going to speak is like, if that first sentence, like someone shot that somewhere is what the news currently, unigram is 1 word, bigram is 2 words, trigrams is 3 words or 4 words. So that is pretty much the idea of how I was trying to analyze. This is the typical Twitter sentiment analysis. Everyone have done that, I guess. At least almost everyone have heard that. So this is also a little anonymized. I have taken away a little, yeah. So, but still you can see that it's mostly hate or police or so that is pretty much what gave the sentiment analysis. The unique graph. That was a bigram. I'm not showing every single graph of it because I moved from that analysis to another analysis. I want this particular one because I felt like, oh, that is something that's produced from actual data. It's just a cute little thing. So it's basically people have multiple tabs open. So people are not really looking at a topic as such. They kind of click on it and then read maybe the first line, and then they're like, oh, the topic is not related to the headline, and I'm no longer interested. Or some people like have mostly in my case, I have multiple tabs open, and I lose interest and I go to the next tab, and so I do not interact. Then I thought, okay, why don't I do sentiment analysis? I already had done Twitter analysis before, so I already had emoticons and almost every kind of data into data corpuses. So I had a data dictionary. I used it. I used 9 base because that was what had success before. I tried positive and negative. Maybe we can say like 60% of the topics having negative have high correlation with reading, but that doesn't say much on engagement. Like even being a negative topic, mostly people read it and move on. So then I went and tried to talk with the journalist people and tried to see that, like 100-year-old woman celebrated a birthday, or a cat had jumped, or something like that. Get more traction. So maybe like weird topics or something like that gets more traction than other, sentiments as such. So it's better a human to tell them to share it more rather than an algorithm to say, okay, it's a positive, so you share it more. So it was not making sense. So I was like, okay, still back to the same problem. What will I do? I actually jumped very quickly to sentiment analysis when I started this problem because that was how my mind thinks. I started researching a little. This is not any work which I had done. I just put it up from a Google image, but this is basically what is happening. So there is a paper from Google. So I was trying to understand how exactly they tackle the problem. The first paper which came up was telling about a priori. So a priori is trying to analyze, consider X as one texas, what you say there, and one Y as index. So how many of you know a priori analysis? So a priori analysis is a famous Walmart analysis. I think it's Walmart, don't hold me on that. So it's the famous diaper and beer analysis, like those two products sell together on basically Fridays. And people were not able to reason it, and they kind of kept it together. They rearranged the structure of I may not be talking the correct words, but they rearranged the flour and arranged it together, the beer and the diaper, and it started like spiking. So I was like, okay, we can probably try that. So I was trying to say, okay, if a person come into a particular site, the next click, what is he likely going to click? So I felt confidence was better because most of a large part of our referrals and engaged people come from Facebook and Twitter referrals. So, we already have X already predetermined kind of. So for making it simplifier, consider T100 as a transaction till T900 is individual transactions having these IDs associated. You can stop me if I'm going too fast. Yeah, it's kind of weird, but what basically it does is it's trying to find the maximum occurring pair. This pair, if you've seen this, have occurred like twice. So it's trying to find which two links happen the most together, so that ideally if we this is a little hard to understand when you look at it as a whole, but if you go individually, you will understand very easily. Easier way to understand, consider you're buying CDs, DVDs, and we are trying to find what goes with Gladiator. And pretty much, because it's color-coded, we can eyeball and say it's Patreon. So with this, I was trying to solve the problem at hand, and my data on the first looked like that is a unique user ID, and this is a URL. So first I had to anonymize the visitor ID, and because URL is the string, I again anonymized it using 0 to maybe 8,000 or 9,000 on that day. And then I created a unique set which has just the values occurring together. This is the actual result of the data, which is not like beautiful, but it basically says 84 is one link which is very highly correlated with stew, which is another link. So maybe a person is going from homepage to entertainment with an 80% confidence level. That means if we don't have that particular link, which is on the side of a web page, of course we are losing customers. I'm telling this because I have presented the previous slide to my managers and pretty much nobody cared. And this was a long work. So, and I was not that confident because I was a single person who was working on this. So it's more like I learned to make it more appealing and more visualization and less statistics and more dollar signs make the value. So, yeah. So I started to make more relations to revenue. Now, currently it is an A/B testing because now they understand, like, without like 84 to 2, 184 if a person travels to 2, that is like dollars, because every single other web page they view, they are viewing 5 more ads, which is directly related to revenue. As long as we can retain the people, the more we will get the revenue. So now we are going to A/B test it with a more demographic analysis on top of their priori. So if a person like Sean comes in, and what is the probability that Rob also goes into the page? So if a Rob comes in and we already have Sean's database on, we can say Rob is going to go through these up. So we are trying to have dynamic websites so that we have more interaction. So yeah, this is a powerful and old concept, but the main question was whether you are going to implement it or not. And this is Hannah Fry's, one of my favorite cards. Numbers cannot speak for themselves, so we must probably have to speak for them. Thank you.
So you showed that slide that was very data heavy, and the managers totally didn't get it at first.
No.
After you went back and sort of went, all right, let me present this in terms of dollars. Then did they get it and implement what you're doing?
Yes, they are going to. That is what I.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we have Spark in place right now, so we will probably put it in that. We don't want to like push, a lot of topics which just get traction. You can create news and get traction. You pretty much have to position your news to get traction. Like you can't have like whether it's gonna change tomorrow and make people visit and whether it's not changing, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
You can create news. So yeah.